I wonder if people watching my videos think that I'm overly negative in my videos, despite me attempting to take the piss and discredit the game at every turn until I reach a conclusion, where I give my honest opinion on it and discuss some positive aspects. Despite now knowing this, I want you to realise that I tried my hardest to find any acceptable parts in Charlie's Angels the game, so the overly negative attitude I have about it is completely true for once. Released as a tie-in for the second film, despite not sharing the same title as it, this already red flag waving video game was developed by Ubisoft back when their name comprised of 2 words. Like most movie-based games, we all know this is going to be horseshit. So let's get this show running and spend a few minutes with me as I make fun of this product. The plot, which is thinner than the scantily clad outfits the angels find themselves in, sees the angels trying to stop a thief who is stealing world monuments. The opening cutscene shows the Statue of Liberty getting stolen in like 2 seconds after all the power gets cut in New York. What do? Just push it into the ocean? Mind you, a few world monuments had been stolen prior to the Statue of Liberty, so Charlie took his sweet time sending out the angels, probably spending too much time jerking off because the first mission sees you enter a bikini competition to break into a boat. This is despite facing multiple foes with weaponry and, clothes on, yet these goons are easily beaten by women in bikinis. Going undercover in the first place was pointless, because as soon as you take a step, every enemy on screen comes for you. What, were these foes genetically bred to sniff out the angels after they provided a show at the bikini contest? One of the angels, Dylan, isn't wearing a bikini, but she managed to sneak in. What, was she too ugly to enter the competition? Throughout the levels, the angels communicate to each other via cell phone, but it really gets the mind racing in this level due to them pulling it from their bikini bottom. I guess when these phones were waterproofed, Charlie wasn't thinking of when the angels would be out in the ocean. In fact, basically every level features the angels in revealing clothes that make them stand out like a sore thumb. I can imagine a situation where the angels are questioning why they need to wear leather thongs for a mission, and Charlie convinces them the best way to sneak in is through the red light district's BDSM area. He also leads them to believe the squelching sound on his end is simply signal interference. The actresses that starred in the film return to provide dialogue, but sound like they were recently drugged and kidnapped to do the work, simply due to how lifeless they sound. Perhaps when signing the contract for doing the film, extremely fine print regarding featuring in the tie-in game was included, and when the actresses started to read it, Ubisoft executives piled into the room, gun in hand, demanding that they sign immediately. I'm not too sure if any other actors returned to provide their voice. I haven't seen any Charlie's Angels related media because I watch real female empowerment films like Lesbian Vampire Killers. For a series known for having beautiful women, this game does not, with the angels looking like early models of sex dolls in cutscenes, and the stilted dialogue made submission briefing seem like the start of a porno. Look, they've even got the casting couch. The models featured in gameplay look even worse, like a doctor with Parkinson's trying to transplant the angels' faces onto a body with severe limb deformities because, god damn, they are gag-inducing. The auto animation sees the angels dancing like an arthritic white girl trying to turn up to some early 2000s pop classics, and furthers how unsexy the angels seem. I would show you this, but I know the putrid sight would make most of my viewers put a bullet in their head, and I don't need that sort of viewership loss. The way the angels walk looks like they have been adjusted to wearing heels and are painfully limping everywhere. The gameplay is more basic and shallow than the women featured in this game. Oh, I'm not sexist, I support women because I've got a Pornhub premium account. The stock standard block, kick, punch and jump moves are featured as with any generic fighting game, and nothing interesting is done with these actions. Few new abilities are learnt throughout the levels, like a grab and combo finisher, with the combo literally being a few punches and kicks before the enemy gets launched into the air in slow-mo, which is higher than the angel's jumps. Every time an angel is hit, they let out the same moaning sound. This may annoy most people, but not me. Their shrieks of pain arouse me. What? I'm sexually depraved, you can't judge that. There's an option to switch between angels and the missions, but like the people expecting to beat off to this game, there's no point in bothering, as the mission plays out normally without needing it. Ubisoft must think all gamers are complete dumbasses because linear corridors are all that make up the level design, and every few paces you move forward, an invisible wall constantly blocks you from going back. This combined with the tiny environments you find yourself fighting in, means you are barely able to perform the jumping kick, one of the most effective moves. Either the invisible walls prevent you from jumping, or the enemies just punch you down, sort of like this is a metaphor for females constantly being beaten down by society. Hold on, let me defend the ladies here, before I get told that females are more than just objects to gawk at. To anyone that thinks women will be stopped advancing in professions because they've hit the glass ceiling, you are wrong. The truth of the matter is, women aren't able to go back a few meters from where they just came from, because invisible moving walls are preventing them from doing so. What the fuck am I even saying anymore? Despite the way forward being more linear and straightforward than a horizontal line, an arrow was included to indicate the direction to head. You know, just in case our drooling asses are distracted by a passing fly and get confused where to go when we look back at the screen. The arrow stops being displayed when fighting enemies, but with the lengths reached to make this game as easy to navigate as possible, I'm surprised that they didn't just add arrows that pointed to where the enemies are. I'm sure that all this was included as an attempt to lessen how terrible the camera is, one that can barely focus on what's important, despite being located in some of the most nothingless levels imaginable in video game history. Whenever you climb ladders, the camera is so close to the angel's arse you can see each individual stretch mark, and it feels creepily similar to how a porn director would film. The camera can run into scenery, which thankfully the developers make transparent whenever this event occurs. Being so fixated on filming the angel's curves, you may not even be shown enemies and projectiles being thrown from the next room. They even have the nerve to say this game features cinematic angles like the films on the back of the box. Does the movie have various shots out of focus and is terribly framed? That's the only way you can compare this to the camera work in the film. Thankfully, the problem of not seeing enemies due to shoddy camera work is slightly averted by showing an enemy's health bar when they are near, as well as their name. I'm so glad they included this because I always wanted to know each carbon copy enemy's first name. Now I can address them like, "Oh, you got hit in the face with my roundhouse kick, Albert. You enjoying my Louboutins? I just bought them." Or I could hit them with, "You like the taste of my knuckle sandwich, Louisa? This one was topped with extra pain." Sorry, I got carried away there. I feel sad because each different enemy model has the same name, so after finishing the mission, the population of that title significantly decreases. A dilemma that arises is when fighting multiple of the same enemy model in the same area, you may find it difficult to finish off a low health foe because only one enemy health bar is displayed, all of these clones share the same name, and the camera is focused on the table instead of the enemies. Weapons can be used, but only if they are thrown at the angels, because they can't pry weapons from the corpses of enemies, as their bodies disappear quicker than the angels' clothes when Charlie sends them on a mission. You can find weapons in boxes littered around the levels, as well as health replenishing items. Instead of simply smashing the box or opening it, the angels kick it into the air and use gravity to release an item into the world. Look, it's really more of a detriment for you angels, not me, because as you wait for this box to drop back down, you're the one getting your skull caved in. Each angel gets a different health item drop, with Alex getting a muffin, Dylan getting a lighter, and Natalie getting a CD. I get that food would restore health, but I'm confused as why a lighter and a CD could. I guess Dylan lights a spliff and Natalie listens to music to restore health, or they could devour these items and the adrenaline from the internal bleeding keeps them running. Trailers and photographs from Charlie's Angels Full Throttle can be found as collectibles, and I know movie-based games are just promo for the film, but they didn't need to be so blatant about it. After returning many monuments and gaining information on the whereabouts of the thief, Luther, the angels enter his place and find out it has been rigged with explosives. Cut a long story short, Natalie and Luther are fighting in a room full of monuments and the explosives go off, loosening the Statue of Liberty's arm enough to fall off, where Alex kicks Luther underneath it. Luckily he's only trapped, or Alex would have some blood on her hands, not counting the hundreds of goons she stabbed to get there. Charlie congratulates the angels, and in a seemingly self-aware moment, the angels swivel around to look at the constantly changing speakers Charlie's voice is coming from, kind of like the developers are making a nod at the terrible camera featured. The game ends with the group going on vacation, and I guess the developers did too with all the money they scammed out of gamers with this product. Charlie's Angels is the definition of a bad game in my very personal yet humble and great opinion. It takes no risks with any aspect, merely stitching together elements from prior video games but oversimplifying or fumbling the sum of those parts. No soul or creative effort was poured into this lifeless byproduct, with it being sold directly after it was ejected from its creation chamber. Perhaps this is the worst type of game, that aggressively leeches from a well-known media entity but adding nothing fresh or stimulating back to the franchise. I, however, rate these games based on my personal enjoyment, so this is really the middle of the road when it comes to bad games. This is functional enough to see me through to the end no problem, but offered no stimulation of any kind, whether it be enjoyment or anger. See you next time, and I'm now off to play a game that I can actually jerk it to. Rayplay.
Silent Winter?
It's an Alaska-based militia, mercenaries in their spare time.
You seem well-informed, Dylan.
What? Okay, so I had a lapse in judgment. It was one date a long time ago. He's in prison now.